Morning. Happy Friday. 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 All right, Amazon. Give us a flash briefing.
Jamie, here's your flash briefing. In NPR News.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Corva Coleman. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin is joining his counterparts from Western allied nations at the U.S. Air Base in Ramstein, Germany. NPR's Rob Schmitz reports from Berlin. They're discussing further military aid for Ukraine.
At the meeting in Ramstein is Germany's new defense minister Boris Pistorius, who is in the hot seat as pressure intensifies on Berlin to approve the delivery of German-made Leopard battle tanks to Ukraine. Chancellor Olaf Scholz has repeatedly refused to approve the export of these tanks to Ukraine, and according to German media, he will do so if the U.S. sends Abrams tanks to Kyiv. The U.S. official says the Pentagon will not send Abrams tanks to Ukraine because they would be too difficult for Ukrainian troops to maintain. Thursday, a group of European countries, including the UK, Poland, Denmark, and the Baltic states, announced what it called unprecedented military aid to Ukraine, including artillery and air defense systems, as well as infantry vehicles. Rob Schmitz, NPR News, Berlin.
Meanwhile, the Biden administration has announced one of its largest weapons packages to date for Ukraine. This includes hundreds of military vehicles. NPR's Greg Myrie reports CIA Director William Burns also made a secret trip to Ukraine for talks with President Volodymyr Zelensky.
The wide-ranging U.S. assistance featured air defense systems to guard against Russian airstrikes and Bradley fighting vehicles that Ukraine could use in an offensive against Russia. The overall package includes more than 20 separate systems valued at $2.5 billion. Also, a U.S. official, speaking on condition he not be named, said CIA Director Burns met President Zelensky last week in the capital, Kyiv. The U.S. intelligence community has worked closely with Ukraine throughout the war, and the visit by Burns comes amid growing speculation that Ukraine, or Russia, or both, could launch a new offensive in the near future. Greg Myrie, NPR News, Washington.
President Biden made a quick trip to California yesterday to get a briefing on storm damage. At least 21 people were killed over about 3 weeks of relentless storms. A child is still missing. Biden is offering more disaster aid to California.
While the situation is still treacherous, we're cautiously optimistic that the worst part is behind. The waters recede, but we'll see the full extent of the damage, the homes, the businesses, and the farms and ranches. And we know some of the destruction is going to take years to fully recover and rebuild.
Biden says climate change is what is driving the extreme, deadly weather in California. Today is the annual March for Life in Washington, D.C. Anti-abortion activists will march to the U.S. Capitol and the Supreme Court. They're calling for more action to end the procedure, even though the High Court overturned the federally recognized right to abortion last year. You're listening to NPR News from Washington. A federal judge has ordered former President Donald Trump and a lawyer to pay nearly $1 million in sanctions. The judge has already thrown out a lawsuit Trump filed against former rival Hillary Clinton. The judge says Trump is misusing the legal system to advance his political agenda. Tributes from fellow musicians are pouring in for folk rocker David Crosby. The singer and songwriter died yesterday after what his family called a long illness. NPR's Eric Westervelt has this appreciation.
But I'm not giving in an inch to be.
The founding member of the hugely influential bands The Byrds and Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young died surrounded by members of his family, according to a statement. Known to friends as passionate and brilliant, he was also stubborn and opinionated. The creative and personal fights within CSNNY were legendary, as Crosby conceded in his 2019 NPR interview.
So it was a fully competitive band, and we were competing all the time, the whole time. And we were horrible to each other. Many, many times, all of us. In spite of that, we made some incredible music, which I'm very proud of.
Sounds like
David Crosby was
with some
81.
relatives.
Eric Westervelt, NPR News.
Wireless network T-Mobile says that hackers stole its data on about 37 million customers. The theft happened last November, and it was discovered in early January. T-Mobile says the stolen data did not include bank account or credit card numbers. I'm Corva Coleman, NPR News.
Explore the rainforest. while you water your houseplants. Take a science trip with
Okay,
Shortwave,
Amazon.
one of NPR's daily podcasts.
Amazon.
More
Skip.
In NASA news, NASA Administrator Bill Nelson, Deputy Administrator Pam Melroy, Bhavya Lal, Associate Administrator for Technology, Policy and Strategy, as well as other agency speakers, will participate in the 2023 American Institute of Aeronautics and Astronautics, AIAA, SciTech Forum from Monday, January 23rd to Friday, January 27th in National Harbor, Maryland. A pair of news conferences on Wednesday, January 25th at NASA's Johnson Space Center in Houston will highlight the agency's SpaceX Crew 6 mission to the International Space Station in February. The mission is NASA's sixth crew rotation flight involving a U.S. commercial spacecraft carrying crew for a science expedition aboard the microgravity Labrador.
Let's go!
NASA announced Wednesday it has issued an award to the Boeing company for the agency's Sustainable Flight Demonstrator project, which seeks to inform a potential new generation of green single-aisle airliners. During an event hosted by NASA Administrator Bill Nelson and Deputy Administrator Pam Melroy at the agency's headquarters in Washington Friday, representatives from the United States and Japan gathered to sign an agreement that builds on a long history of collaboration in space exploration between the two nations. Two astronauts on the International Space Station will conduct a spacewalk Friday, January 20th, to install hardware for future power system upgrades. In weather. Currently, in Seattle it's 38 degrees Fahrenheit with cloudy skies. You can expect more of the same today, with a high of 47 degrees and a low of 31 degrees. From NASA.
Okay, Amazon.
NASA Administrator Bill
Amazon.
Nelson, Deputy...
Off. Amazon. Tell us a joke.
What do you call a camel with no hump? Humphrey.
Humphrey. Well, that's a good name. Yeah. Okay. Well. Good Friday, everybody.